Up next, founder and CEO of Rebirth, Cheetara Heath, joins Authentically Detroit to discuss the nonprofit organization and her mission to break generational barriers by means of housing and supportive services. But first, this week's hot takes from Bridge Detroit and WXYZ. COVID public health emergency ended Thursday. What does that mean for Michigan? And suspect who allegedly kidnapped and murdered local nurse has been arrested. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit starts after these messages.
Founded in 2021, the Stoudemire is a membership-based community recreation and wellness center centrally located on the east side of Detroit. Membership in the Stoudemire is available on a sliding scale for up to $20 per year or 20 hours of volunteer time. The Stoudemire offers art, dance, and fitness classes, community meetings and events, resource fairs, pop-up events, the Neighborhood Tech Hub, and more. Members who are residents of the east side have access to exclusive services in the Wellness Network. Join today and live well, play well, be well. Visit ecndetroit.org.
Bridge Detroit is your news and engagement platform that is telling the stories of Detroiters rooted by community priorities. Started in 2020 by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Stephen Henderson, the newsroom has already established its footing as the go-to source for hyper-local perspectives that ask the hard questions, brings accountability, and searches out real solutions. It's free to become a member of this award-winning news organization. Visit bridgedetroit.com today to sign up to receive the news delivered right to your inbox. Bridge Detroit, by Detroiters, for Detroiters.
Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Cass Corridor, Midtown at the WDT studios. We are a content partner at bridgedetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people right here in the city of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Donna and I are joined by CEO and founder of the nonprofit Rebirth, Cheetara Heath, today. Donna, Cheetara, first of all, happy Mother's Day to both of y'all.
Thank you.
And how is this amazing looking Monday finding the both of you?
Well, I find out how the day looks when I'm on my way here. I'm inside all day, but we don't have windows in my office.
You gotta go for a walk
or something, okay?
You remember I used to walk around the building. You gotta get.
I need to get out I need to get out more. But yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's the day after Mother's Day, so it's a good day for me. How about you, Cheetara?
It is a beautiful day for me. The sun is shining. I'm here. Interviewing with you guys.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Well, we're happy to have you. Donna was saying before we got started that, this show is also about highlighting Detroiters and some of the dope work that they're doing. So we cannot wait to have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about Rebirth and all that you are doing. So welcome.
Thank
a warm
so
welcome
for
to you.
Me.
There's so many wonderful people in Detroit. People say, what's the best thing about Detroit? And everybody looks downtown, but it is the people.
It is the people.
It is the people just finding so many creative ways to invest and reinvest and take care of each other. It always makes you proud to be a Detroiter.
Yeah.
It's not anything that's on the news. And so through Authentically Detroit, we have an opportunity to highlight some of those people. And especially given yesterday's news, and especially following Mother's Day, I'm especially happy that it's a woman, a mother, somebody who is part of a life-giving part of our community. And sometimes Black women are taken for granted and not always respected. So I look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I do too. Well, let's get into it, y'all, for Hot Takes, where we went down some of the week's top headlines in the city of Detroit. For Hot Takes, COVID public health emergency ended on Thursday. What does that mean for Michigan? This is by my colleague Robin Erb at Bridge, Michigan. I'm going to see her tonight at the Society for Professional Journalists Awards.
Where you will be getting an award tonight.
I will
possibly.
be getting
You've
an
been
award
nominated.
tonight at SBJ.
And that's before your second Emmy Award event. When is that going to be?
News. I have a bit of news. Donna's breaking news.
I'm breaking it for him.
I am officially nominated for my second Emmy Award.
Ooh, I need something.
I know, we need a bell or something. Yeah, I'm nominated for my second Emmy Award. The interview where I interviewed the presiding bishop J. Drew Sheard over the Church of God in Christ and his wife Karen Clark Sheard. Everybody knows who Karen Clark Sheard is, right? For the 1 year anniversary of our Black Church, our Detroit Black Church series at Detroit PBS, and that episode, that special in that interview, is nominated for an Emmy. So I will find out whether I get the Emmy on Saturday, June 17th. But it really is an honor to just be nominated. I just won in 2021, and here in 2023, 2 years later, to be nominated yet again, it's a distinct privilege and honor. So thank you for letting everybody know.
You know, the thing I love about Orlando is no matter how many Emmys he gets, he never gets cocky, you know, so he's always so humble by it.
Very humble.
And I absolutely love that about Orlando, but I'm really excited for you.
Thank you, my friend. Let's get into this story. So on Thursday, May 11th, the COVID-19 public health emergency officially ended in the United States after 13 renewals over 3 years. Its expiration means, among other changes, the end of free COVID testing for some people, but other COVID realities and culture shifts will remain. Some Americans continue to suffer from long COVID, which researchers are still trying to fully understand. So masks, long discarded by most Michiganders, remain an ever-present necessity for those who are immunocompromised or have chronic conditions or are still worried about the coronavirus. That's me every time I go to the airport and sit on the plane, N95 all day. So the new COVID cases and hospitalizations and deaths continue to decline across the state, but they are far from gone. Here's the quote: "We're likely to call this a pandemic that doesn't truly peter out," said Howard Markle, a medical historian at the University of Michigan, who has written several books on the social and cultural history of the epidemics. Here are some rules and practices that changed on Thursday. A, private insurance no longer will be required to reimburse consumers for at-home rapid COVID tests. They won't be required to cover the entire cost of doctor-ordered tests either. That includes Medicare plans. Medicaid will be required to cover those costs until September 30th of this year. But what the consumer will soon pay is unclear. Costs for the chain reaction drug or a PCR testing, considered the gold standard for detecting COVID, will run now from about $44 to $145 in Michigan. So, you know, there's that. Also, they will not be required to pay for detailed COVID data, including the number of reported new cases in the state, the percentage of people who test positive, the availability of hospital beds and supplies will no longer be required to be tracked as closely. So as a result, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will stop tracking community spread levels across the nation. The last point I'll make is that the emergency's termination on Thursday does not mean the end of COVID or its lethal legacy. As of last week, more than 38,000 Michigan deaths were linked to COVID over 3 years. Labs confirmed more than 2.6 million cases of COVID at the height of Omicron in 2022. More than 17,000 new cases were being detected each day. On a single day in January 2022, 5,009 people in Michigan hospitals were being treated for COVID. Donna, what say you?
Well, you know, I think that terms like pandemic, epidemic, and whatever, those are public health terms. They don't really speak to the seriousness of disease. And these are broad terms that speak to population-wide statistics. But even after, for example, polio was greatly reduced in the 1950s, I believe, late 1940s, 1950s, by way of a polio vaccine. But marginal communities, most at-risk, vulnerable communities, continue to have deaths and paralyzations caused by polio because these were the people who had the least access, the least trust in the medical system, and least education about prevention techniques. I would imagine the same thing will take place with COVID-19. People who already have compromised immune systems are going to continue to experience problems. People who continue to mistrust public health are not going to get the vaccines, and you're going to see a shifting of this from a disease or an epidemic that impacts everybody to something that really is impacting at-risk groups. And unfortunately, when it comes to at-risk, that means Black folks, and that means people in the city of Detroit. I'm hoping that the health department continues to track this data, continues to educate us, and understands sometimes the lag effect caused by living in a racist nation and the impact on public health.
Yeah, I think, when we talk about public health, my work in Detroit, and as well as your work in Detroit, Donna, signifies that public health is socially determined, right? Socially determined by zip code. Your zip code is more important toward your life expectancy than the food you eat sometimes, right? Proximity to industry, all of it is socially determined. And so I think when we are situated in a city like Detroit, where a significant tranche of marginalized people live, getting resources to the most vulnerable population is so very difficult. And so I guess my question is, while the federal government is loosening his hand a little bit, what are our peer service organizations, our health departments, community development organizations going to do to sort of bridge that gap? Because we know that the need is still there. I have a friend right now who's stuck at home, not feeling well due to COVID complications. Testing positive for COVID. So we know that it's still there. So I'm wondering if there has been sort of like the galvanization of some organizations who are attuned to public health and the social determinants of it and what they're doing.
Well, the Stoudemire Wellness Hub exists to help promote public health. And we also have a grant from the CDC Foundation in its third year where we are funded to educate people. And we actually this year are going to be doing more community-based work where we're pushing into block clubs and neighborhood associations so that we can be at a very grassroots level, making sure people have access to vaccines, doing vaccine clinics in the community and community education. But I have to say this, on Friday, a couple staff and I actually stayed late. It was like Thursday. We're closed on Fridays now. On Thursday, a couple staff and I stayed late talking about our experiences with healthcare systems. And everybody there had really traumatic stories to speak of regarding their interface with healthcare systems. So I think it's a matter of educating the people and also educating the systems and advocating on behalf of the people to the systems to do a better job of building relationships, of trust relationships with people who have been treated in so many negative ways by the healthcare systems. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Cheetara, because you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a grassroots organization in the city of Detroit, and also being an individual who's contracted COVID-19 at least 5 times. Accessibility is everything to our Detroit community. So one of the things that we do at Rebirth, a nonprofit organization, is we provide COVID-19 testing kits. We provide the PPE items and things like that, just so the barrier of accessibility for those healthcare items are available to our more our communities who, one, aren't as educated. They need the education on the healthcare rights, the systems, what's being done. That's very, very, very important. So that's one of the things that we do. We will partner or apply for different COVID-19 grants that are still available, just to make sure that our community has that accessibility to those items.
That's wonderful. I used up my last test on Saturday.
I have some more for you.
Oh, thank you. Because listen, it's allergy season, Now, anytime anything happens, I'm like, is this COVID? Because I have brand new grandchild, and the last thing I want to do is spend time around brand new child with any kind of sickness.
Right.
Yeah, I was like using up those tests, and I was like, okay, yes, right. I was like, I need to make sure I'm safe. And luckily, the symptoms abated because I know the tests aren't 100% accurate. And then I looked and saw that this is a really bad year for allergies.
Yes, it is.
Man, who you telling? It's so funny. I'm like, I didn't used to have the allergies this bad, or allergies, period. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, so late 20s, 30s is like, okay, allergies. And then, I don't know, does the 30s also mean you go to the restroom 50,000 times a freaking day? My gosh.
Yes,
the
it
amount of
does.
time.
I don't know, but I'm going to tell you that just keep living and see what happens, okay?
Goodness gracious.
Keep living and see what happins. Sometimes things get very urgent, but
Lord. I'm like, I gotta go. I'm leaving out of music. I'll be right back. Okay. Also, for a hot take, suspect who allegedly kidnapped and murdered local nurse has been arrested. All right, so this is a heavy one, y'all, and this is bothering me to no end. So the suspect who allegedly kidnapped and killed Patrice LaToya Wilson, that's her name, say her name, over the weekend is in custody. That's according to Wilson's mother, who said police told her the suspect was in custody. Police were looking for a 36-year-old Jameer Miller after he allegedly kidnapped her over the weekend. I don't know if you guys were watching the television stations or the internet, but you got a snapshot of the vehicle that he was in. Wilson was found dead inside of the trunk of her car with multiple gunshot wounds Sunday in Novi. Miller is reportedly her ex-boyfriend. According to police, Miller is suspected of kidnapping Wilson while wearing a blonde wig. He then forced her into her own car at gunpoint. Her body was later recovered in her car, which was outside of an apartment complex in Novi. While Channel 7 Action News spoke to Patrice's mother, Rosalind Livingston, on Saturday, she said Miller wouldn't let her daughter move on after they broke up. The more she pulled away, he was sending flowers. If you go by her house, there are things at her door, that kind of thing that left there to let him know, I am not accepting things from you, she said. Police say Wilson was headed to her car after an overnight shift in Detroit Medical Center when she was ambushed by Miller. The quote says this: he approached our victim just as she was getting into the driver's side of her vehicle. He then got inside the vehicle and forced her over and fled with her inside, said Police Captain Donna McCord. All right, breathe. Donna, what say you?
Oh, this is very emotional for me. Probably every woman on Mother's Day was having the same feelings, because unfortunately for women, many of us have experienced these situations where you're with somebody and they seem very nice and sweet, and then you realize they're dangerous. I've seen people post things like, women need to be careful not to go out with dangerous men. These men aren't threatening your life when they ask you on the first date. They can be the sweetest, kindest men, so vulnerable and sweet, complimenting you all of the time, giving you little gifts and doing everything they can to bait you into a relationship with them. And by the time you realize who they are, they consider you to be theirs. And getting away can be difficult, especially because people judge women. Why were you with him in the first place? Because I didn't know he was crazy. We don't judge men that harshly. In fact, we protect men. We have to see men practically kill a woman before we decide it's not her fault. There are still some people debating whether whether Rihanna deserved what Chris Brown did to her, in the way that we protect Megan, the guy who shot
Tory Lanez.
Tory Lanez. Whatever.
Please don't ruin my life. You ruined your life.
Exactly. But the way that
culturally
we come together and we protect men who harm women, we need to have a zero tolerance for hate and hostility towards women. So that's one of the things that occurs to me. Is very personal. I've been in situations where people have sent unwanted flowers to my home, to my work, and the feeling is never a compliment. It always feels like, a threat. Actually, the flowers feel threatening. And then the second thing, or the third thing, is this question of whether or not, if somebody approaches you at gunpoint at your place of work, whether you get in that car or jump out, find some way to jump out. I'm not blaming her. But as soon as I knew that she was left by gunpoint, I figured that was going to be the end result. I don't think any man would take her, kidnap her, and then let her go. And I'm not saying that I told you so in any way, shape, or form, because it could happen to anyone. But I wonder if there are some self-defense classes, some ways that we can educate women.
Yeah, I have some at the Stoudemire.
Right, we do have those, educating women on what to do if somebody is threatening you, whether or not to comply, when to fight back, and also what are some early signs that somebody is troubled, so that before you get connected to them, before you allow them into your world that much, and before they get to stake a claim on you, to push them away. Many times we're not taught that by anybody, and a lot of the stuff that people consider cute. Oh, he's so possessive. Oh, girl, he follows you everywhere you go. Doesn't sound great when you all of a sudden feel like you are being possessed. So those are just some of my thoughts. What about you, Cheetara? I know you had to have a similar feeling.
Well, let's hear from Cheetara right after this break. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with more on this story. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit. We'll be right back.
Have you always dreamed of being on the airwaves? Well, the Detroit Eastside Engaged Podcast Network, or DEEP for short, is here to make that dream a reality. Located inside the Stoudemire, the DEEP Network offers studio space and production staff to help get your podcast idea off the ground. Doesn't take a whole lot of work to get started. Just visit the Authentically Detroit page at ecn-detroit.org or call Sarah at 313-948-0344.
Founded in 2021, the Stoudemire is a membership-based community recreation and wellness center centrally located on the east side of Detroit. Membership in the Stoudemire is available on a sliding scale for up to $20 per year or 20 hours of volunteer time. The Stoudemire offers art, dance, and fitness classes, community meetings and events, resource fairs, pop-up events, the neighborhood tech hub, and more. Members who are residents of the east side have access to exclusive services in the Wellness Network. Join today and live well, play well, be well. Visit ecndetroit.org.
We are back, and we're talking about the kidnapping and the killing of Patrice Latoya Wilson, who was kidnapped and killed over the weekend. Cheetara, you're getting ready to speak to this.
Yes, this story really hit home for me, being a victim and survivor of domestic violence, me and my children, and also an advocate in the community for domestic violence. It's really important that we understand the level of domestic violence happenings here in the city of Detroit. I don't know if you know or not, but one of the number one causes of death for police officers are response to domestic violence situations.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
It's very prevalent here in the city of Detroit. And there's something that really needs to be done.
You're saying police are getting killed on domestic violence runs?
Yes,
That's what you're saying? Okay.
That's what I'm saying. That's one of the number one causes of police death.
It's also one of the number one causes of deaths of women
Yes.
who are victims of domestic violence, who are killed by intimate partners. And Black women are more likely to experience intimate partner killings than other women. I think it's also important that we put that statistic out there because we have so much hurt and brokenness inside of our community as a consequence of, generations of slavery and oppression. And sometimes it comes into the home in ways that we're ashamed to talk about. And therefore, we don't want to protect women because we feel as though we have to protect men from judgment, right? And so there is this over protection of Black men, sometimes at the expense of women. This thinking that Black women are strong, we're the most educated, we have all of these positive things going on, and therefore we're not deserving of the same kind of care. And so when you hear about things like that, everybody's horrified. Mm-hmm. But it happens more, like you said, it's much more common than.
Absolutely. And it was that type of false reasoning that I had that kept me in that domestic violence relationship with my ex-husband. That generational barrier of experiencing or witnessing domestic violence as a child. I so much so wanted to have a family that I stuck in there until it became so hard.
When did it become apparent that he was abusive?
As soon as we moved in together.
And how long did you stay?
I was in that relationship for 9 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
9 years.
That's my number.
Children.
That's my number, 3 and 9 years. And mine was not as soon as we moved in together. Mine didn't surface for a couple years.
Wow.
Right? And so, and I was ashamed, right? Shame keeps women.
I think we need to spend some time
women there
here
too, because I felt shame and embarrassment, like a failure, like somehow I internalized all of the responsibility for what an adult did to me.
Yeah.
Because why did I let that happen to me? Why did I choose to be in this kind of relationship? Mm-hmm. It took me a while to regain my sense of self-confidence, my sense of pride, and my trust in my own voice and vision, which caused me to make some other mistakes later on in my life, but not that one again. But I think it's important to notice that there's two things. One is shame and the other one is fear.
Yes.
Because when you say you're leaving, people don't necessarily say, okay, see ya, okay? You have to somehow find a way. I lived in fear, and I didn't even understand that I was in chronic fear for a few years after I left an abusive situation. Did you also have that kind of fear?
Absolutely. And you can't. It's easy for someone to say, "Why don't you just leave? You just leave." You have to be strategic when you're dealing with a dangerous individual who's not only physically but mentally abusive. You are dealing with a whole bunch of demons. So you definitely have to be strategic. That fear, I carried that with me for years. I have a PPO to this day.
Cheetara, take me back to something you said that really sort of, piqued my interest. And I think we should spend some time here because I don't think we often platform women's stories enough about this kind of situation. You talked about experiencing domestic violence as a child, and you wound up in a domestic violence situation as an adult. Talk about sort of that psychological warfare. How does something like that happen?
So I'll say this. One of my first memories that I think of is my father over my mother beating her on the ground in her face, and me consoling my mother. I was 3-4 years old, sitting on her lap while her face was bloodied. That's very, very traumatic in itself. But this is what I've witnessed in my life and what I assumed was normal because my mother continued to put up with it. So what does that do, as a child, to you as a child mentally, as you go throughout your life and into your adulthood, if you haven't dealt with those traumas or if you haven't been educated on how to process or deal or what's right and what's wrong, you are more likely to get into those situations. And a lot of times women who experience through or witnessed domestic violence usually end up in domestic violence situations later on in their lives.
So I didn't have that exact experience. And growing up, I knew domestic violence was wrong. Like I always heard stories about what my grandfather did to my grandmother, and I always observed how my father treated my mother. And I rejected my father, and he knew that. We grew up but there was my father was a charming guy, okay? He was handsome, he was charming, everybody fell in love with him, right? He had that charm. And what is manhood, right? And so when you have been taught to believe manhood is certain things, then men who don't exhibit those traits aren't real men. We do a lot in our culture to uphold this real man stature of toxic masculinity and not understanding what it is. And so I ended up with somebody who was very different from my father, but also very charming, very handsome, all of that. And and he was a real man, right? And so I had to then sort of unlearn and disentangle those beliefs about what a real man was, because I grew up also with an uncle, Ronald, who actually just had his 89th birthday last week. And Ronald took care of his family. He came home every day. He went to work. On the weekends, he was fixing the gutters and fixing the cars. He was always doing something protective and caring. And I grew up not thinking of him as being a real man. It took me being an adult to think about the fact that I had been brainwashed into believing some really toxic things about manhood and not honoring the man who was in my life and deciding this is going to be the man I follow. This is going to be the man who is the imprint of what a real man is to me. I think too many young ladies grow up in situations where they're not exposed to or not taught to honor men who exhibit really positive traits. I mean, he's cool, but, he's soft. And I remember years ago, I like a hard man. I like them hard. So I went through this thing after I left my ex-husband, and I was like, we say we're Christian. We're sitting in church, and I'm in a women's conference, and people are talking about liking hard men. I said, would you like Jesus? I mean, you sit up here and you talk all of this, and then you call yourself Christian. I'm just trying to wonder, do you think Jesus was, doing these types of things? Soft is healthy. Having softness means you have compassion. That means that you are not out of touch with your humanity. So for a while, I was doing a lot of talks with women. When I was at Second Ebenezer Church and I ran Vanguard Community Development Corporation, I spoke at conferences and churches speaking to women. I was participating in prayer breakfasts talking about how I needed to learn how to forgive myself. And after a while, it stopped. Now, luckily, there's a former staff person from Eastside Community Network who asked me to speak at a conference she's having on Sunday and bring up that story and tell my story again and speak life to some young women again. And I said, this is what I need to do. When I talk about race equity, I love doing it, but I also need to, like Cheetara, begin educating and using my own experience to try to help other women break those cycles, because
Absolutely.
so many of us have experienced that.
Absolutely.
Cheetara, what is your journey? Did you experience a similar journey around self-forgiveness? That's really interesting that, Donna said that, having to sort of forgive herself. Did you contend with that at all?
I had a lot of guilt because the domestic violence had spilled over to my children.
Oh, wow.
And, it took me leaving and hearing the stories from my children, because I worked and went to school. My children were a lot of times at home with him. So they told me stories, and that to this day, it tears me up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you grow through what you go through. And I teach my children to be empowered through the things that they've been through, and I ask God to forgive me, even though I didn't know. I do have a sense of guilt, just from that trauma. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I used to teach my children, or try to teach them to be empowered. I think one of the things I forgot to do was teach them to grieve and to teach them to heal. I was so busy trying to say, we're not going to let everything, and this is the other Black woman's journey, right? We are so busy not letting anything stop our rise. You're in school, you're working, you're rising, you're doing this, you're raising 5 children, you've got this, you've got that. And it's like, at what point do we acknowledge the fact that we have injuries?
Absolutely.
And that those injuries have to heal, that they are not okay. And that it's okay to hurt and to say I'm hurt.
Yeah.
And to be vulnerable, so that we can not just push down our feelings. I feel like I've been taught that Did you learn that from your mother?
Yeah, I mean, strength is a process.
Right.
Strength is a process. It definitely is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said that I just want to follow up on, I'm sorry I haven't let this go yet, but I think this story is surfacing and making visible the experiences of so many Black women in Detroit. That's number one. And I think this is a conversation that we cannot rush. But I want to ask you both about strategy. Cheetara, you said that you needed to have a strategy toward getting out because it literally meant your life. Talk about the strategy to get out.
Yeah. You have to be very strategic in your exit plan. There has to be an exit plan because, like I said, these situations it's life or death, domestic violence situations. And I wish that our leaders, our local leaders, our state leaders will understand that domestic violence on every level is a life or death situation, and it should not be taken lightly. A person should not get probation for beating up a woman in the way that they do. It's mind-boggling to me that this is continually happening, that women are continuously losing their lives, which it seems like almost every week we're hearing something going on the news, a domestic violence dispute where a woman loses their life or children lose their lives. There
was the head of the Oakland County Health Department who was killed by her husband, I think the day before that happened.
Yes.
And there's a woman in Oakland County who was beaten so badly. She had cracked ribs and damaged organs and internal bleeding and broken bones. And she shot and killed her husband and was convicted of murder. This is just a couple years ago. Most women in prison who are doing time in prison for murder were defending themselves from domestic violence. The courts still do not allow women to do more. You could you have the castle doctrine where somebody's on your porch knocking on your door, you might be able to kill them, but a woman her body does not have the same protections legally as a home does, because there's nothing that says a woman has the right to defend herself and kill somebody coming after her and not serve time in prison. So some women have to decide, will I risk my life in this way or not? And I think that's, it infuriates me. There was a judge in Flint years ago whose husband was a police officer who killed her, and he didn't do time in prison. She was a judge, he was a police officer, because they could understand he had a momentary lapse. There is this understanding in our legal system. So while I talk about what happens to Black women and the frequency, it happens to women, period. It's just that the frequency, when you have a lot of brokenness, poverty, and other kinds of stressors, impact us differently in our community. But I'm not suggesting that only Black men do this or that our laws protect any women, because they don't. For me, I have become so socially isolated, like most women who become who are abused. You become socially isolated through all kinds of mechanisms. Punishment, if you spend time with people, I'm going to make you pay. Making you mistrust people, and manipulation, and making other people mistrust you, spreading stories about you to the people that you love, so that you find yourself in a place all by yourself. And one of the things that you don't do, and one of the strategies has got to be letting somebody know and asking for help.
Absolutely.
Another strategy for me was journaling. When I wrote and talked about my own feelings, it made me accountable for my own feelings, so I could no longer think it's all in my head, because part of the abuse is making you think, somebody will do something to you and then tell you it didn't happen. Now, you have to write it down and be able to document it so that you can stop lying to yourself. Or, that's when people talk about gaslighting. That's what they mean, right? And so there's this whole issue of trying to rebuild your circle. Interestingly, I decided to leave. My ex was Catholic, and I decided to leave when I joined the Catholic Church, because I was not going to be Catholic with him. And then finally I said, well, I don't want my church children to go to different churches, so I'll become Catholic. And so as I'm going through the Catholic faith, Catholics don't believe in divorce, right? As I'm going through the RCIA, which is the Adult Christian Education Program, I'm thinking, I don't think God wants me to live like this. If God loves me, God can't want this. And so drawing closer to Jesus, I left. And I think that's really interesting for me, because the first strategy was that. The second place was going someplace safe and getting away, far enough away that I left town for a couple of weeks and stayed with a sister who lived in another city. So I did certain things, but, luckily not everybody is going to escalate to murder. Most of the time, it doesn't come to that. You just don't know when it will. And so I think strategies like go somewhere safe, tell people, get some support from people.
That support
so that you
system
are not
is very, very, very important. That's what, to circle back around to what you asked me about, that strategic exit plan, reaching out to someone saying, hey, this is what's going on. I need support. I need your trust. I need your support. And this is what needs to happen. I need to get away. I need to come up with a plan. Reach out to domestic violence organizations, family members who you can trust and that will keep your location safe and things like that. Because there were times where I left and he found me because someone ran their mouth, So that strategic plan is very, very sacred. It's important. It's life or death. It's a life or death situation.
That's also, I want to say that predators thrive in fear. They want you afraid. Take that away from them. Take that away. When I decided I was not going to be afraid anymore, when I decided, I always think Harriet Tubman was my hero anyway, and I used to say to myself in my head, go free or die. Go free or die. And when I said go free or die, that meant I was no longer willing to live in fear, because you could not go free in fear and escape the plantation. You had to go free as though you believed freedom was on the other side of where you were, so that you had the power and the strength and the hope. I'm going to get to the other side of this and take away that fear. I had an attorney who said, when a dog comes charging at you, punch it in the nose. You don't run from a dog, punch it in the nose and let it know I'm your equal. So I think those are some strategies. I think women coming together as a community and supporting each other and stop judging each other, because we get torn apart and we learn from very little girls to be treated as rivals, but women are the best support for other women. And so I extend myself to any woman who needs that kind of support as women extended themselves to me. And I think if the Sisters of Detroit decided to come together and say no more and really support each other, we could hold more men accountable.
And we'll put some resources in the description of this podcast. We're going to take our last break for this episode, and we're going to talk to Cheetara about Rebirth when we come back. Stay with us.
Bridge Detroit is your news and engagement platform that is telling the stories of Detroiters rooted by community priorities. Started in 2020 by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Stephen Henderson, the newsroom has already established its footing as the go-to source for hyper-local perspectives that ask the hard questions, brings accountability, and searches out real solutions. It's free to become a member of this award-winning news organization. Visit bridgedetroit.com today to sign up to receive the news delivered right to your inbox. Bridge Detroit, by Detroiters, for Detroiters.
Have you always dreamed of being on the airwaves? Well, the Detroit Eastside Engaged Podcast Network, or DEEP for short, is here to make that dream a reality. Located inside the Stoudemire, the DEEP Network offers studio space and production staff to help get your podcast idea off the ground. Doesn't take a whole lot of work to get started. Just visit the Authentically Detroit page at ecn-detroit.org or call Sarah at 313-948-0344.
We're calling her. We don't know what to do about it. So, yeah.
Let's talk about Cheetara. Cheetara Heath is the founder and CEO of Rebirth, a nonprofit organization. Rebirth is helping underprivileged communities break generational barriers by means of housing and supportive services. Born and raised in Detroit, the Renaissance city, it seems fitting that her personal and professional rebirth are in full effect. Being a single mother of 5 children, she is no stranger to the struggles of life and is the poster child for overcoming adversity, including homelessness, sexual and physical abuse, and mental trauma. In 2018, just after coming out of homelessness herself, she founded Rebirth and has dedicated her life to helping others while at the same time recovering from her adversities. To date, she has purchased multiple multifamily housing units and plots of land to help homeless domestic violence victims and their children, rehabbing the homes herself, and most recently gaining a 30-bed shelter on Detroit's east side. To date, Rebirth has served over 7,000 people and counting, assisting with emergency housing, clothing, food, and PPE and hygiene products. Cheetara's goal is to become a community real estate developer. I think you're already a community real estate developer, helping Detroit residents to thrive. On top of that, she runs her own cleaning company and works full-time 10-hour shift. So
Can I just say we need a bell?
I know that's right.
I mean, your Emmy's one thing, but,
I know that's
Cheetara's
right.
got me like,
she got
oh
the
my
prize.
goodness, I just love this story.
Yeah, Donna, tell me what stood out to you about this story, because you were really excited to talk to her. What stood out for you?
Just the accomplishment, the sense of I can do this, I'm going to make this happen. You know, she reminds me of a young Tony McElwain.
Yeah,
and,
just making it happen.
Somebody, you know, whenever you talk to somebody who doesn't ask permission and just says, I'm going to do and I'm going to take care. And I think the other thing that stood out to me, honestly, is the love that you have. You know, some people are harmed and bitter and don't want to help anybody, and some people are harmed and bitter and loving. And the fact that your experiences have made you extend yourself a bit more and just be such a caring person in our community really moves me.
From a place of brokenness to healing brokenness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you feel accomplished?
I do feel accomplished. God is a healer, and He has continued to give me His grace and His mercy. And why wouldn't I extend that on the platform that He's blessed me with to others, to make sure that they don't have to worry or go through the things that me and my children have been through. Yeah.
Tell us about this housing.
Yeah.
So
Where is it?
I'm super excited. It's located on Detroit's east side of Outer Drive.
You know we Eastsiders, and so you
Eastside Community Network. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. Right now, I'm working on a proposal to get the funding to operate the shelter, but it's ready to go. It's ready to go, and I know that's going to be a huge thing for the city of Detroit with the housing barrier for domestic violence victims. I get many calls of women and children inside of their cars.
What you just said though is so monumental, because I think oftentimes, especially politicians and folks with platforms, equate houselessness to mental health issues, and that is really not always the case. And we have to be able to provide this complexity that we are providing to people today.
Because another reason people stay is they don't have shelter. They have nowhere to go. And one of the reasons people go back home is because they couldn't find a place to stay. And do I want to live in my car? Do I want to live with you? So you're applying for funding.
Yes.
And do you have any help? Do you need help with that?
Yes, I need help.
Okay, so we'll talk after this show about how we're East Side, you're East Side, and you're doing something. I asked one of my staff, Savannah Brewer, who is our
shout out to Savannah.
Yeah, she's our senior director, and she's been with us for 7 years. And I asked Savannah, what is the biggest unmet need right now? And she says, people calling me about domestic violence and the need for shelters. And we don't know how to respond organizationally, but I feel like if there's a need, we have to respond. Certainly this article is a wake-up call, because sometimes people just need to leave. Even if you have a home, sometimes you need to leave home.
Yes.
So they don't know where to find you, right?
Yes.
And you may even need to leave your job for a little while, so they don't know where to find you. And that's a horrible thing, having to start over, but it's better than losing your life. So you have other housing, though. What other housing do you have?
Yeah, so the other housing units that I have are situated in District 5 on the west side of Detroit. So those spaces are going to be utilized as low-income housing and resource centers. My biggest thing
Homegirl got site control. What she's saying, Donna, is I got site control. We need to resource this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Site control. Because a lot of gentrification is happening within our communities. Individuals are being pushed out of their homes illegally, let me say that, and they have nowhere to go. So what I'm doing is I'm securing the housing and the resources and the accessibility, to our community, so they'll have access.
Well, in the community development industry, we're looking at trying to support a different range of actors in the community, right? So it's not just the community development corporations ourselves that are doing the work, but when there are people like you in the community trying to create housing, we have a responsibility to support you.
I appreciate that.
And so I'll talk to you offline about where you are, and if there's somebody I know who's doing work in that same area, maybe you can work with them. But definitely I want to see all of what you're doing, succeed, because it's super important. You've already helped 7,000 people.
Yeah.
Yes, to date.
I want to ask a process flow question. It's like, how do people just begin to tap into this service? Like if we stay within the vein of domestic violence victims, I mean, I don't. The process flow. Are the police involved? What does that look like? Are the courts involved? What does that look like? How do they get to you eventually?
So it's word of mouth, basically. I get calls on my cell phone, 313-603-2802. If you need help, any resources that I have, I make them available to those in need. If I can't help you, I'll find somebody else who can help you.
Now, when you talked about police officers and the cause of death, I can think of a few women police officers who've been killed by their police officer partners. So there's a lot of domestic violence also that takes place within police departments.
The ranks.
And when you have abusers policing abusers, you don't necessarily have protection.
Absolutely. So we see it's not just a community problem. It's a human problem.
Right.
Domestic violence is worldwide.
Yeah.
And it's something that needs to be addressed seriously. Just speaking here about the city of Detroit, the domestic violence unit, they're very short-staffed. They're very short-staffed.
And they're working through, like, I know CompStat and AmeriCorps are doing some things, but those AmeriCorps domestic violence coordinators, they're making AmeriCorps money, and and they swap out after so many things. So there's iterative and cyclical turnover in some of these departments, and these systems are so complex to try to learn and navigate other people through them.
We need consistency.
It's brokenness.
One Sunday, not a couple of years ago, one Sunday after being stalked, I showed up at a police precinct and said, I'm being stalked. And they said, okay, well, you have to go to, they didn't take any reports at all. They told me that the domestic violence coordinator would be there on Tuesday, or I could go to court on Monday. And I'm like, so I'm coming here to report a crime and you won't take a report because this is not considered a crime. It's the kind of crime where we take reports on Tuesdays. It's minimized. It's marginalized. And then, so I also have to say this. I have a family member who was being stalked. And the police in question did an outstanding job helping that family member from a different police precinct. Mm-hmm. And let's just say the stalker, to my knowledge, has not been back. So they were effective. I'm not going to say none of the police officers, but my experience was that. And then, of course, when I finally decided to leave my abuser, when I called the police, they came, knew my ex they threatened to arrest me because he said that I started it. And I had to threaten them, in order to get them to take him away. I think that, to say the least, we need reform around domestic violence within the police department, and we need the police department to take it seriously. And that systems change. It's bigger than just, it's bigger than just saying, let's have these new laws, but how do we get into the training? How do we make sure the policies are there to protect vulnerable women?
Absolutely. All the parameters surrounding domestic violence need to be changed.
So 7,000 people, that is an amazing data set. Talk to me a little bit about the people behind that 7,000 number.
The people behind that 7,000 number are those in the Detroit community. I service a large population of homeless individuals, not just individuals going through domestic violence, but people throughout the community, whomever may have a need. We not only do housing, but the supportive services lie within the food disparities. So we have a food program where we service over 300 people a month, just giving out food, PPE items, clothes, shoes, and things of that nature. This has been going on since I filed my articles of incorporation.
How long ago was that?
In 2018.
Okay, now where are you physically located to do this?
I'm physically located in the city of Detroit on the west side in District 5, yes.
All right.
In the Dexter-Davidson area.
All right, so people would know to go. You could give people word of mouth, people in the neighborhood, people in the area know about you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm situated just down the street from Focus Hope, actually.
Oh, okay.
And they also refer people to me as well. They hear it from word of mouth, social media. I'm on the ground. I pride myself.
Oh my God!
I pride myself.
Tony
on
McElwain Jr.
On the
ground. You got staff, or is you a one-woman show?
I don't have staff. I have volunteers.
Tony McElwain Jr.
I'm telling you, I'm listening to her story. I'm like, is that Tony? Yeah. I think Tony has 5 children or something like that.
Yeah, I have 5 children as well.
Yeah. And we've not had Tony on this show. We have to get Tony on this show. But like, you especially since I think you're abutting your Otter Drive location, the Ravendale neighborhood where Tony McElwain traditionally serves. I think the two of you should be introduced. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I would love that.
When I say a titan in Detroit in terms of community development and people development.
Okay.
Right. I'm saying her name multiple times because I want people to know she's still around.
She's
still doing
around.
stuff.
In fact, she's helping to rebirth Ravendale. Working with some young leaders. The other thing I like about Tony, but she also just purchased a home where she's providing shelter for men in the community who are homeless. And so we talk about that, and she talks about how she's helping them get their lives together. And I'm wait a minute, Tony McElwain, because she's not a person who asks permission. She goes in there and does things where she sees a need. She tries to fill a need. And, it was Mother's Day, and I was trying to find a quote or find some way to really celebrate all of the Black women I know who do that, because there are so many of us, but you kind of stand a little bit above the others simply because you have actually gone into housing and tried to figure out what that looks like, and you've gotten so many services, and you have another job. You say you have a cleaning service?
Yes, I have a cleaning company. Yes.
Okay, tell us about your cleaning company.
It's me and my children. I get the contract.
You better put in the work. They better know how to clean.
They know how to clean. My favorite phrase is clean up.
Let me tell you, that's a skill.
Absolutely. Commercial contracts, restaurants, office space, apartment buildings, things like that. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And anytime.
And your 10-hour shift.
And my 10-hour shift. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. At any time, a woman says, hey, I need a job. I will have that access for her to be able to supply her with a job as well.
Because she can clean with you.
She can clean with me.
Oh, wow.
She can clean with me. Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Man.
I know, right?
I mean, the richness. So, the richness of your experience, right, of your childhood and your marriage, makes the work that you do and makes for the listener that much more sweet. I mean, for somebody to have had the obstacles that you've had and have overcome, and then decided to use that as the impetus to help as many people as possible, right? And not go into reclusiveness, not hoard your experience, but are willing and free to. I mean, this was not what the interview was supposed to be about, right? But for you to share your experience and to do so freely.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
you're a Detroiter, right?
I am a Detroiter.
Born and raised?
Born and raised.
Where'd you grow?
I grew up in the District 5 area and also the Joy Road.
The east side area or the east side of District 5 or the
she's
west side?
No, the west side. I'm the west side.
Because you see how smooth she did. She's talking about the District 5. She was real smooth with it. It's like, nah, east side or west side?
West side.
What it is.
West side.
Okay.
Forgiven.
All right. She grew up. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school. I dual my education at Cranbrook High and also at the Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts.
Oh, right.
Yes.
DSA!
DSA!
Oh, we got a DSA!
Yeah.
What was your major?
Vocal. Yeah.
Oh, she
04.
sings.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, give us a little. Okay. What's your favorite song to sing?
Yolanda Adams.
All right, encourage a woman right quick.
Okay. Let's see. Alone in a room. It's just me and you. I feel so lost, 'cause I don't know what to do. But what if I choose the wrong things to do? I'm so afraid of disappointing you. So I need to talk to you and ask you for your guidance, especially today when my life feels so cloudy. Guide me until I'm sure, and I'll open up my heart. Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Is that a first?
Dr. Cotton has to be so proud to have,
I love
all
her.
of this talent in this room. You know, speaking of somebody to celebrate. Wow. So you went to Cranbrook, too.
Yes, I did.
How'd you like Cranbrook?
I love Cranbrook.
Oh,
it was
my
a life
goodness.
experience.
Oh, did you live on campus?
No, I didn't live on campus.
All right.
Oh, man, I think that's a first. Have we ever had anybody sing? We had
She's
somebody.
got a beautiful
Oh,
voice.
and
Thank you. I was a little nervous, probably a little shaky.
No, but
but
when I'm
Beautiful
when she
voice.
said she
Oh,
went to
thank you.
DSA was a vocal major, I know she sings. You understand me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
my goodness.
Wow.
I can't think.
Oh my
Speaking
gosh.
of a woman who had impact on Detroit, though.
Yeah.
Look at Dr. Cotton and
Look
her
at-
impact on Detroit and Detroiters.
Don't get me started
Yes.
on my principle.
Dr. Cotton, she was there for me. I graduated pregnant. Okay. If it was not for her, I'll be in a high school for girls, pregnant. But she stuck by me. And I thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cotton, for sticking by me and believing in me. That is a phenomenal woman.
Let me tell you about Dr. Cotton. The connection, we were really small. We student body of about 500 kids. She knew us all by name, number one, every single one of us.
Walking around in her slippers.
In her slippers. But one of the things that, when she sees something special in you and she sees something special in each and every one of us, she does the work to just, keep up. So every now and then I'll get a random text from Dr. Cotton saying, I'm in town, meet me here at this time. And she's not asking you. She's telling you, I need to see your face.
Yeah.
And she has to, and I thought this was just the relationship she had with me.
I thought you were special, didn't
I
you?
thought I was special. But she has this relationship with several, dozens of her students. And so Dr. Cotton, we speak your name today. I mean, what in the world? Yes.
Oh, wow.
Cheetara, it's been such an honor and a privilege to have you on with us. I mean,
you.
when we created Authentically Detroit, this was the kind of interview that we had imagined, highlighting Detroiters and the amazing lives and work that they do.
Absolutely. I think, people see the buildings. You can give people a tour of the city, but you can't give people a tour of the people. And I want people to see us and you.
Thank you.
Are somebody worth seeing and listening to. Listen, you can sing. We have to have you open
Book
up
me.
something. Listen, is that one of your gigs? You sing
She
too?
sing too.
You know what?
How can people get in contact with you?
You can call me 313-603-2802. Yeah, absolutely.
Say it again.
313-603-2802.
All right, everybody. If you have topics that you want discussed on Authentically Detroit, you can hit us up on our socials at Authentically Detroit, or you can email us at authenticallydetroit@gmail.com. It is time for shout outs. We're a little bit behind, but I'm okay with being behind today. Donna, you have any shout outs?
I just want to shout out ECM. We're having our annual meeting on Saturday, the 20th, and we're going to be honoring several community dream makers and a dream builders and one dream maker. Kevin Ryan is our dream maker because he has put so much money in grassroots activities all across the city. And we have several people we are so proud of in the city of Detroit on the east side doing amazing work. And so I'm excited to honor them. And then we're going to end it all with an Authentically Detroit Town Hall where Orlando and I are going to ask the people in our community, what is the state of the east side?
Cheetara, shout outs?
Yes, I would like to shout out my children, my fabulous 5. I love you, my mother, and also my District 5 managers and the Department of Neighborhoods for being great supporters. Thank you.
Awesome. That's awesome. I would like to shout out another community heavyweight or East Side Queen, Brenda Butler. Today is her birthday.
Happy birthday, Brenda.
Happy birthday, Brenda Butler. And shout out again to, all of the mothers. Now I want to shout you out. You're a grandmother twice now. I'm glad you had the opportunity to feel celebrated, especially in the absence of your mother. I know that's not easy, but the way that you trek forward is admirable. And I am honored to be just one of the witnesses to your amazing journey toward healing. So, I love you. I love you with all my heart. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of Authentically Detroit. We thank you for listening. And until next time, we want you to catch the wave.